All right, so this meeting is going to be on the Lean Startup Chapter 8. Okay, so this is on pivot or persevere. So understanding the pivot, I just pulled two quotes from the book that I thought were really helpful in understanding what the pivot actually means. So the word pivot sometimes is used incorrectly as a synonym for change, but really a pivot is a special kind of change designed to test a new fundamental hypothesis about the product, business model, and engine of growth. And then the other is a pivot is better understood as a strategic hypothesis that will require a new minimal viable product to test. So we've made tweaks to our MVP. Now, what are the numbers telling us to do? Should we pivot or persevere? It should be clear, right? Well, the truth is it's not that black and white, and we are still left with our best judgment to decide the next steps. So the goal of creating learning milestones is not to make the decision easy. It is to make sure that there is relevant data in the room when it comes time to decide. So there are 3 reasons why pivots usually come late. The first is that we're tricked by vanity metrics. So that hockey stick graph where it goes up at the end and it looks like a big success, people, gravitate towards that. If they see that, they're going to say, "Oh my gosh, we're making it, we're doing it." They've attached emotions to their perceived success, and that's exciting for them. So vanity metrics are definitely one of the footholds they can get into. The second is they have fuzzy vision. Without a clear hypothesis, it's impossible to tell whether it's a failure or a success. And then the third is you have a fear of regret. You say things like, "I wonder if it will fail if we don't dump more resources into it now." Like what could we do to make sure that we don't fail? So how can we overcome the costly late pivot? Host regular pivot or persevere meetings. So there should be 2 groups of people at these meetings: business leadership team that comes with a detailed account of their conversations with customers, and then also the product development team, which should bring the results of their efforts to optimize the product over time and how they're different from the expectations. Types of pivots. Okay, so we've got the zoom in pivot. So this is you go all in on one of the previous features. The zoom out pivot, you build out related features around the previous product to form a new product. The customer segment pivot is you figure out the product solves problems, but for a different type of customer than you originally anticipated. Customer need pivot, you figure out the targeted customer has much more important problems than the one we're solving now. A platform pivot, you started from selling a product and then built out a platform that allows others to sell the same products. A business architecture pivot, you change from a high margin, low volume business to a low margin, high volume business, or the opposite. There's a value capture pivot. You change the combination of features and pricing. There's the engine of growth pivot. You shift from one of the viral, sticky, and paid growth models to another. There's a channel pivot, which is you change the distribution channel. And finally, a technology pivot. So you change to a technology that can provide superior price and or performance compared with the existing technology. All right, we made it through the pivots. Bottom line is there are lots of ways to manipulate and test your model. This is exciting. And it almost seems like success is inevitable if the right pivots are made. There is a warning here. You will likely land somewhere very different than you started, and your flexibility will determine your success. Okay, so here's an example of successful pivoting. The company is Vodazen. I think I'm saying that right. It's a tech company that develops an online network of voters in the US. The CEO is David Benetti. So what did David do? He made 3 crucial pivots before he launched Vodazen. The first product took him 8 months to produce, and the metrics were not enough after several improvements. The second product focused on one feature from the first product. It took him 4 months to produce, and the metrics were a lot better, but the revenue was still not enough to support the business. The third product was identical to the second one, but he tried selling it to a different type of customer. This was a major flop and no one purchased it. Then the fourth product was a result of a platform pivot and was finally showing evidence of promising growth. So here is a little chart of what we just talked about. So you've got the first, second, third, fourth product. And as you can see, everything like that, the engine of growth changed throughout. So first he started with the sticky model, then he went to paid, and then finally viral, he saw the most success with. All of these metrics, registration, activation, retention, referral, revenue, everything went up in that fourth product. So there is a really great lesson here. With each pivot, it took David less time to ship the product than the last one. Through their feedback loop, they learned critical things about customers and the market. And then consequentially, many features were discarded and gave them the acceleration in their pivots and less the velocity in their runway to eventually lift off before the runway came to an end. The all-important runway. Okay, the true measure of a runway is how many pivots a startup has left, i.e. the number of opportunities it has to make a fundamental change to its business strategy. Acceleration says, how can we get to each pivot faster so that we can maximize our resources and lengthen our runway? The conclusion, acceleration is pivotal. Thanks, guys. All right, and then we just have some discussion questions.